Hey, how's it going? It's Sean Bradshaw from Cyberfret.com. And in this lesson, I'm going to go over some of the basics of a technique called tapping, or right-handed tapping, or two-handed tapping. It's a technique that was made popular by Van Halen in the late 1970s. And it's the idea of playing some notes with your right hand on the fretboard. And you know, this technique has developed a lot since then, and there's a lot of, modern acoustic players that are doing all kinds of cool things, playing notes with their right hand that sound nothing like Van Halen. But we're going to start out this kind of basic introduction to this technique and do some kind of Van Halen-ish, things to get you started. Now, the basic idea of this technique is that you're using a right hand finger to do hammer-ons and pull-offs. All right? So there's a couple of different ways that you can do this. One is if you're just holding your pick with your thumb and your first finger, you can do the hammer-ons and pull-offs with your second finger. And so here I'm going to take my left hand first finger and play the 10th fret on the first string, and then I'm going to take my right hand second finger and I'm going to do a hammer on and then pull off at the 15th fret on the first string. Okay, so that's the basic idea, is that I'm just doing a hammer on and then pull off with that second finger. Now, one advantage of doing this particular combination, where I'm holding the pick with my first finger and my thumb and using my second finger, is that I can be picking normally and then maybe do a couple of notes that are tapped with my second finger. Also, I can use my right hand to kind of stop any excess noise that might happen on these lower strings. That is, if I am playing some notes on the first few strings. So as I'm playing this, I'm using my right hand to kind of control some of that noise that can happen. Now, you can definitely do tapping on the lower strings, and then your noise control has to come a little bit more from your left hand. But that's using your second finger index to play the notes. Now, another thing you can do, and Van Halen, the next two things I'm going to show you is what Van Halen does, is that he actually holds his pick with two fingers, his first and second fingers, a lot, so that he can let go of his first finger and it's available to do some tapping of some notes. And so in that case, you're holding on to the pick with your second finger and then doing the hammer-on and pull-off with your index finger. Another thing is, often when Van Halen goes all into tapping, you'll often see him kind of tuck his pick in his second finger like this. All right, and then one of two things, you might see him brace his thumb here on the neck, or use third and fourth fingers kind of touching down here on the neck. And it just depends on what he's playing, especially, in doing some lower things down here. That bracing kind of helps to steady your right hand as you're doing that. Okay, so kind of play around with those three different ways of using your second finger, holding the pick with your second finger and using your index finger, and then also try tucking your pick in your second finger, and then try the bracing your thumb on the top or bracing your third and fourth fingers, underneath the neck like this. So now let's take a look at, one of the most basic kind of Van Halen-ish things that's done with this tapping, and that is a combination of three notes. And so what we're going to do is the same two notes that we started off with. We're going to be using a right hand finger to play the 15th fret on the first string, and we're going to use your left hand index finger to play the note on the 10th fret. But the third note that we're going to play is with your third finger on the 13th fret of the first string. So our three notes are going to be, I'm going to hammer on with my either index finger or second finger on the 15th fret of the first string, pull off to my left hand first finger on that string, and then hammer on with my third finger on the 13th fret on that. So the three in combination are so again, hammering a right hand finger on the 15th fret of the first string, pulling off to a left hand first finger on the 10th fret, and then hammering my third finger on to the 13th fret of the first string. Or if I'm going to do this with my second finger. Now, if you've already been doing some improvisation, then you know this scale. It's a minor pentatonic scale. And I'm going to play this at the 10th fret here starting on the 6th string. So that would make this a D minor pentatonic scale. Now, what I can do to kind of expand, if I'm kind of improvising right there with those notes, is a tapping idea would be to kind of extend up that minor pentatonic scale to another note higher on each one of the strings. And so kind of an easy way to remember this, or the way to memorize this, is that on the first string, that's going to be 2 frets higher than the highest note that was in the scale pattern before. On the second string, same thing, 2 frets higher. On the third string, 2 frets higher. And here's where it changes. On the 4th string, it's 3 frets higher. On the 5th string, 3 frets higher. And then on the 6th string, 2 frets higher. So we have this on the first string, second string, third string, 4th string, 5th string, and 6th string. All right, so you don't always have to do, that combination. I can be playing. So I'm just playing, there I'm just kind of doing one single tap. It doesn't have to be this flurry of notes. All right, so here's a little, utilizing that idea. Probably the most common to do this on the upper strings, so this is just kind of playing this combination of adding the note in the minor pentatonic on the first 4 strings. So what I'm going to do is this twice, this twice, this twice, and this twice. All right, so that just gives you a few ideas that you can start to play around with this. There's all kinds of different things you can do. There's bending and tapping that you can do. Lots of different scale things. There's multi-finger things that you can do. You can play notes of chords, with, where you're playing a note here and maybe even reaching over and grabbing a bass note here. So there's kind of an endless number of things that you can do, but this is kind of the basics of that right-handed tapping technique. Have a good one.